preparing live on YouTube, and we are starting the webinar here
Webinar Friday.
in.
Recording.
I know, right?
I keep thinking
I've
it's
got to shut
Saturday.
that off.
Like,
It's
is it
what?
Friday? I keep
Okay.
thinking it's Saturday. I'm like,
It's
It
not.
is Saturday. You're all good, Danny. There's no work to do today. Hey everybody, welcome, and it's good to be back and see everybody. I'm Sean Bradley. I'm with the Green Room. I guess I should change my name to Sean Bradley instead of the Green Room. And we have some fine people with us from STEWART Talent here today. Dana Diedrich, Jenny Wilson, and Jim McCaffrey. They've been kind enough to join us. They are all in Maui for the last year, kicking back on the beach and working remote. No, I'm just kidding. But it's good to see you all. So just want to get started off and see how you guys are doing. What have you been up to this past year? And where are you really, if that matters? Dana, where are you at?
oh, I was like, who's gonna go first? I have been pretty much in Minnesota the whole time with my family since quarantine started. Last summer I was like, oh, we have a lake house, so I was like, I can work from the lake house and be in nature. So that's where I've been, and I'm currently still there in the great
That's
state of
awesome.
Minnesota.
Jumping
yeah.
in the lake today?
I have to, or something, or the mini pool, the kiddie pool in the backyard.
Awesome.
Yeah,
And
working
Jenny,
remote.
what about you, Jenny? Are you in the office or are you?
I'm hiding in my bedroom. I live in Chicago and have been working out of my house pretty much this whole time. Traveled to see my folks in Cleveland last summer, but really I've got 3 kids and they've been remote learning and then hybrid. And so it's just been hanging out at home, living in Chicago.
That's been so easy, hasn't it? The
Been
remote
awesome.
learning, it's been really great. Yeah, our
really
family
excited.
has really embraced remote learning. Jim, what about you? Where are you at?
Literally right now, I'm not far from Dana. I'm in the great state of Minnesota. We're looking to slowly start to get back into the office at a gradual pace come this July.
That was my next question.
Figured we would take as much time as we could to see our families. I've spent a lot of the pandemic down in Florida with my family. My sister had 2 babies this year. Which is so great. I got a little niece, little nephew, Gabe and Izzy. And then I mostly have been working from home in Chicago. I live in Rogers Park, but I'm working from the lake for the next couple of weeks while we're here taking some time. So
very good. Very good. Well, it's
yeah.
Good to see you all. Super good to see you all. So you are getting back into the office sometime soon. Is that going to be like a permanent, like full-on thing? Or is it
TBD?
Kind of TBD?
TBD. We're still working out the details. I think that it's going to be a gradual thing to ensure everyone's safety, not only us, but the people that we represent. We want to make sure that people feel 100% comfortable being able to come into the office and tape and see us and do whatever else. And, being in the Wrigley building where there are other offices and, sharing an office with another modeling agency, there's a lot of questions about that. So
Absolutely.
We'll see, but we're gonna start dipping our toes into the water come July is the plan.
Yeah, right after 4th of July, some of us will be there on a rotating kind of schedule. So
very cool. Very cool. And for everybody that's out there watching, we do have the question and answer thing available to you, and you can upvote because a lot of times when we do these webinars, people ask the same questions over and over. I'll throw out the first question: how do I get a talent agent? Are you guys still using talent agents? And how do I get seen by casting more often? I'm sure we'll probably chat about that stuff. But you can put that question in the questions if you'd like to. But scan through, and if you see somebody else has asked the same question that you want to ask, just upvote them instead, and we'll be more likely to be able to get to those. Okay, cool. So, and there also is, I think, chat available. But if it's particularly questions that you want to ask, stick them in the Q&A. That would help us out a lot. I just wanted to throw this out there to the whole crowd of people for the actors out there. What was your involvement in your acting career during the pandemic? Have you guys been doing stuff? Or you been working at it but not getting auditions, or have you actually been seeing some work and having some progress? I'm just doing that because people like to click buttons, and polls are so much fun on webinars, but it is good to get a little bit of perspective out there. As we got those answers coming in, how have your processes for you guys at STEWART changed throughout the last year. Like, let's start with that first one. The process of finding new talent, has that been different during this period of time? And do you see that going forward differently? I know a big one is you haven't been seeing much theater lately, have you?
That's correct. Obviously, yeah.
Zero.
I mean, to be fair, there's been a lot of digital programming. You know what I mean? I have to actually watch a play live in a couple of weeks. The Goodman is doing some live stream programming.
Did you say I have to?
No, well, I mean, no, I want to and have to. You know what I mean? It's just it feels good to just reconnect. You know what I mean? And also see something that is temporal. You know what I mean? They're not going to record it and then like let it live for forever.
Right.
It's just going to live in these like 4 performances. So that's been fun. There has been a lot to see. I would say that overall, though, the process of us bringing on new talent, it's changed in some ways. I think that it's changed mostly in the way that we discuss the information, because what we would like to do when we were all in the office was, once we've put someone on tape after they've come in and talked with us and, took a meeting, then we would all review tapes together. Like, we would all gather around a computer and we would all review tapes together as a team. And now we're doing the same thing. It's just that we're doing it from the comfort of our own home, and we discuss things via, a chat thread or an email chain. So it just feels different for us, even though the process itself probably isn't really that different, because most of the people that we have, reviewed over the pandemic have come to us via referral, which, I think is always the best way to get a meeting with us, and or via showcase. Like, we have to review the Roosevelt showcase this week. And, we all sort of give ourselves deadlines to be like, everybody's got to watch Northwestern by this date and talk about your picks, by this date. You know what I mean? So the process is all still the same. We're all still discussing everything as a team and then making decisions as a team. It's just the way we're discussing it.
Well, but we haven't had anybody in person. I mean, we always taped new talent, and now it's all virtual, obviously.
Exactly.
So people send in their monologues or send in scenes or send in their reel, and then we're discussing, as Jim said.
Right. But we still have meetings over Zoom, though, right?
Right. Yes.
Like,
yes.
So we still get a beat on the person. It's just different. It's just pandemic-y. It's weird. It's a panini.
Has it made it easier in any way in terms of the workflow, since it's not like, oh my gosh, scheduling, getting people in here, putting them on tape, and then I can pass stuff over to other people quicker and easier? Or is it?
I like meeting people in person. I think you really get a sense of their energy and their just personality when you see them in person. So
the same here. In fact, I think it's actually made it logistically more difficult for us. You know what I mean? It's we don't do this because we like to look at people's little pixelated faces on a computer. We do this because we like people, and we like the people that we represent, and we want to make new connections with people. So, it's not made it easier. In fact, it's made it a lot harder, I think.
Yeah.
Would Dana, do you agree?
I think so. And I think like connecting too, because again, like as a talent, you want to shop for your agent. You also want to get a sense of us. And I think it also makes it really, I always I'm like, I know this all feels very disconnected because we're not in a room and you can't look at me and I can't look at you. So I think it overall, it's like Jim said, logistically, I do think it's almost like harder, and you want to go above and beyond and call people and like basically anything you can do but stand in the room with them.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think people don't realize that so much. Actors, especially when they're shopping around for an agent, they're always focused on the business side of things, but you don't realize that you're making a really big life decision to create a relationship for the long haul, for decades of your life, potentially. And it becomes a really important part of your life and a really important relationship in your life. So that is, do you guys have plans to bring in, because I know you've brought on people throughout the last year. Is there like a new talent party coming up in July where
it's a great idea? I know. I'm like, we should do like a barbecue, like an outdoor bar, because it is like even students we brought in 2020 or, anybody we brought in the last 2 years, basically.
We've never met them in person. Yeah.
We've never, and even before the pandemic, it's like, you can tell, like, we had our regulars who would come in and say, it's just, I think maybe it's a good idea. We should do like a barbecue if we could. But nothing on the books yet.
Right. Cool.
First, we got to figure out how we're all going to get in the office safely.
Right.
Exactly. Right.
Then we'll throw a party.
I know. Right. Is there anything particular at the Wrigley Building that they're being I
I
don't know.
know
You guys
that
haven't been in
they,
there.
you know, like the elevator's the big thing too, you know, and I know in
Right.
like most big buildings, it's like you can have two people in an elevator at most. And I
Mm.
think, you know, even though we're on the 7th floor, it's still like that would take forever, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
if
Yeah,
only
yeah.
two people can go up the elevator. So but they haven't made any like big and like, I think for the most part, they're open where, you know, you wear your mask to your office and
Sure. Cool. Well, we got the results from the first poll here. So this is what people were saying was going on for them, which just looks good. People are getting some involvement in their careers and actually
Excellent.
getting out there and doing some stuff.
Yes.
So that's super good to see. What about any challenges with pitching to casting people? I mean, I know they kind of have to deal with the same thing that where they can't find or see your talent out at shows and everything like that. Have you had to get creative in terms of saying, you know, hey Claire, look at this actor. You know, I want to, you know, share this person in a new light. You know, are you finding self tapes or self taped scenes are more of a tool as opposed to reels, as opposed to shows, or it's pretty much the same place?
I feel like there's been more like digital generals this year. You know, I
Mhm.
think like O'Connor did a like they did a general.
Claire
I
did
feel
a
like
general.
Claire did a general. Like I think even
Yeah.
casting was
A
like
few.
we need to see, you know, we need to see what's going on and also to see current, you know, people that they've known for years that they just wanted, you know, to kind of get an update on. So I don't feel like it's harder or they've been just as active to like see what's going on as we have.
And the tools that we use to do that are all digital. So, I mean, if we're
Mhm.
going to be emailing them or sending, I mean, that would be something that we would have been doing prior
Right.
to COVID anyways.
Right. Or calling them on the phone. Like
Right.
I
We still
don't
talk
think,
to them on the phone. Yeah.
yeah, I don't think our means of promoting or pitching talent has changed at all. And I mean,
Cool.
even when you think about it, like, you know, yes, we're located in Chicago, but we're working on a national scale. So we pitch people for things that are in LA, in New York, you know, so on and so forth. But it's like, you know, it's not like I can just walk down the street to see Rachel Hoffman at Telsey. You know what I mean? Even if there weren't a pandemic, even if we were all still back and doing theater, I'd still be sending her emails and digital pitches and reels and stuff like that. So
I know it's Friday the 11th, and the masks have been lifted in the city and in the state and everything like that. And I know SAG is still, you know, playing it out through June 30th in terms of the production rules. How has that affected you guys in terms of dealing with stuff? Are you putting a lot more people on hold because of, you know, having COVID backups, and has that just rocked the boat in terms of like last minute cancellations? Because I've heard from some casting folks that it's not been terribly uncommon where somebody's like, yep, can't do the shoot now, and then they actually do have to switch out and
Oh yeah, I think it's happened on every show, I mean, multiple times on different shows. I think it just depends on, you know, who the person is that tested positive, you know, but
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if you didn't even have it. If you just had a false positive test, they still went with somebody else last minute, you know?
Yeah. So have you been seeing a lot more people on hold for like one role, or longer holds?
I think longer holds. I think that they might book somebody and then they wait till they get closer and they get their COVID test and then if they're negative, they proceed into their fittings and all that kind of stuff. But I don't necessarily think they're putting more than 3 people on first refusal for these TV shows. I think they're keeping it pretty limited for the most part.
I know commercially it seems like there's just always it's like everybody's got a backup. And SAG now passed that they require testing, because originally the commercials were not required to have testing.
Mm-hmm.
So they put a lot more, and then they put them on. It's just usually there's always a backup to the backup. There's always options and people just on first refusals.
Are there any whispers in the winds as to what might happen after the 30th and what the production alliance is going to come up with at all? No, we don't know.
I mean, people ask all the time. They're like, I'm
Sure.
vaccinated. I don't want to get tested anymore. And it's like,
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
that may be something that they get a pass from getting tested. We don't know.
see.
But up until that date, we're just proceeding, at least on the TV shows, everybody needs to get tested many times before they show up to shoot.
Yeah.
And there's even less information from Equity. We have no idea what's going to happen when it's time to go back to Broadway or regional theater or whatever. You know what I mean? Equity has not released any sort of guidelines to like
Right.
what life is going to be like in a post-vaccine world.
And I've heard from different theater companies as to when they're going back. Some like in 2022, some in this fall. What's kind of the lay of the land that you know right now, Jim, in terms of which theater? Do you have any clue?
Girl, we back. Everyone is pushing forward. Broadway will be back in full swing by October. A 100% capacity, fully open.
Yeah.
Here we go, round the clock. Regionally, I would say most of the bigger houses, the Goodman is starting rehearsals in July, like for full capacity in the big theater, ready to go.
What's Steppenwolf's word right now? Are they still waiting till 22?
Steppenwolf has released a season. I think that they'll be starting in the fall. They'll be picking up in the fall as well. They're also a little bit more complicated because they're building that new space.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the timing falls around when they're actually going to be able to open based on construction timelines. But I have a feeling, most of the larger houses will be back full swing. APT will be back full swing. Milwaukee Rep, will be rocking and rolling. And then by January, I think the mid-tier will start to open up.
APT must be losing part of their first chunk of the season, though. Yeah, are they running a full slate?
They're running a full. Well, they've
modified. They'd be up and rolling right now, wouldn't they?
They've modified the way that they're doing their shows, so they're not doing them in prep. So they're doing singular shows with limited casts, and you have to pod with your cast.
Right. That's what I heard. I was like, oh my gosh, yeah.
Yep. Really somebody we work with is a core company member there, and she lives in Spring Green. She has a house and a family and everything, and she needs to move into the actor housing away from her own home and live with the actors of her show for 8 weeks.
Yes, I've talked to some of the actors there that are like, oh, this is really, really rough.
It's intense.
Have to sequester from each other.
That's intense.
Oh my
gosh. It's intense. It's intense, but it's the way that they can make it work. And they're fortunate that they can be outside too. I think that really works in their benefit.
Yeah. So I have a question, which I'm sure you anticipated, from William. And I think if I put this, it says that we're answering this question. Do you have any opinions on whether actors will go back to live in-person auditions, or is casting from home self-tapes going to be the new norm across the boards?
For theater, it's already happening. I have people in the room this week.
And I have a film callback on Monday. People have the option to go, and they're not required to, so you can still Zoom. But I think it's going to be like a hybrid. I think self-tapes are quick and easy, but I also think a lot of people, certain casting directors want people in the room. So I think it'll be project specific, casting specific, but I think people want to be in the room. I think casting wants people in the room.
Yeah.
And I think for the TV shows, I think maybe the first round will be self-tape and maybe they'll do callbacks in the room. I mean, not sure yet, but nobody's rushing back into the office quite yet. So, I mean, PR is still working from home. Claire is still working from home. Cardi Ross, everybody is still not bringing people into the office in their worlds.
Yeah, it's really just the theater stuff that's put the pedal to the metal on getting people back in the room. Like I was on the phone yesterday with the general manager at Worklight in New York, and they're in callbacks for the Ain't Too Proud tour this week. So every morning they're there at 5. They sanitize the whole space. There's breaks built into the schedule so that they can re-sanitize the room. Dance calls it's a very extended callback schedule because you can only have 6 people in a dance call at a time. So on and so forth. But it was important to these producers and to this artistic team to get people in the room, which makes sense because it's a play.
Why would theaters want to see people in person?
Why would they want to see people? I don't know. Hey, look, some directors don't. I mean, we've had people book Broadway shows never being in the room before. Mm-hmm. It's not uncommon, but I think that there's just a desire to feel people's energy more, because of the nature of what it is. So,
absolutely. And I've talked to casting folks, various casting folks throughout this whole thing, and the conversation shifts as the months go by. But I've definitely heard some of them say that it's so much more efficient, and that a lot of them have seen that this is going to be a major part. I mean, not completely, always self-tape, but that a lot of them, have found with their producers and showrunners that they can actually watch stuff and engage with stuff much more, especially on the, co-star roles, some of the one episode guest star things, that those have really tended to look like the efficiency of the situation, and from some people hearing about the quality of the auditions, because the actor's not sitting there nervous that they've got, you know, 2 minutes to nail this thing. They can actually look at their work and work on it. So it'll be interesting to see where things actually fall out. Commercials, I would imagine, would go back in person in a
I think so. Yeah.
force as fast as possible, just because of the improvisation and pairing people up and seeing multiple people. Yeah.
I think it would be. I do think too, though, ad agencies love the efficiency of just like collecting tapes. There was a great like AICP talk like a month ago, and they talked
Interesting.
about
Yeah.
ad agencies being super stoked for self tapes when it's cost efficient to them. You know, they can see more people, but like I think it will be in person, like you said, like pairing people, you know, family stuff, like certain jobs you're gonna be in person.
Right. But I think it might. We'll see how the hybrid thing. I think is probably going to wind up being the case, because it does allow more people to have opportunity and availability to actually, you know, get there or show up. You know, if they can't, you know, get out of work and get there, whatever.
And if people want 8 people too, you know, like people are wanting Ohio casting directors who never really book out of Chicago now are like, hey, can we get, you know, so I think it's opened up the market too, so that people from everywhere can also, you know, kind of.
Lisa's got a good question, that Lisa Cordy-Leon. Hey, Lisa, what's happening? That kind of goes along that, but maybe flip-flopped in reverse. Are you open to repping talent out of state, given virtual audition self-tapes and the ability to work local hire? I know that's been working. That question's been out there a lot from both people in other markets or in our market that are trying to tap into like Atlanta or LA or things like that. Where are you guys with that? Is that, I imagine on a case-by-case basis, but how do you feel about working with people that are not within the 3-hour drive of Chicago? Well, let's say maybe they're at a lake house in Minnesota or something like that.
I mean, I'll jump on this. I've always felt, even pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, whenever, that the myth of, I think the idea that you can be worldwide or bi-coastal or whatever is a myth. I think that it's, you know, especially if you're 4 hours away, yes, it's wonderful that you can work local hire, but does that mean that you should? You know what I mean? And it's just like, you know, does it make sense to hop a plane, to go to a place for a day that's only going to, you know, you might be in the black like $200 after it. But you know what I mean? It's hard, right? You want an agent that's on, I think, the soil that you're on. It just makes sense. You know what I mean? There's always going to be opportunities to reach out to those other locations. But I think that for us to just be like, we're going to just rep someone in Tennessee that lives in, you know, that lives in Nashville, let's say.
Sure.
I think that would be a very difficult thing for us to be able to do effectively, in the way that they would have to get introduced to our local casting directors. You know, there is, as we all know, there is a slow burn to this. You know, you just don't, very few people just come right out, book and top of show guest stars. Right. You know, so it takes time to develop those relationships with the casting directors so that you build that sense of trust. And, you know, is it worth it to just like pick up and go from Nashville to New York or to LA or to Chicago or, you know, wherever at the drop of a hat? Because the other thing is you're going to need to get COVID tested in this day and age, you know, which means that you're going to have to put yourself up for 4 days prior to when you start shooting. You know, like at what point does it become too much? Is it too much of a strain? So is it possible? Sure, anything's possible. And the people that we have that work in Chicago work in New York and LA too, when the opportunities make sense. Yep. You know, but would we be extra enticed? Has this like helped us entice? Are we enticed more by the pandemic to reach out to people that don't live here? I would probably say no. I don't know. Dana, Jenny, do you guys agree with that?
I mean, we certainly rep people that don't live in Chicago. We have people that have, but they started with us and were local here first, most of them, and then they have relocated out of town. And they may still be on our roster and they may still have relationships with the casting people here. I think what Jim is saying, starting fresh from out of town and bringing them in and not having them spend some time here is more difficult. But it is, I mean, it's not easy. We've had people that, you know, say they're going to be a local hire and they need to get on a plane. They get booked in the morning and they need to get on a plane that afternoon, last minute flights, and then they have to stay for 4 or 5 days prior and find the place to stay because of the COVID tests and all that kind of stuff. It's tricky.
Yeah. I lost my other question here. Sorry. So during your process and interview process, Jenna Little asks, when you are interested in something, are you doing like a virtual callback, like actually having them act with you live, or is it just, you know, taped stuff and then you talk? How does that go?
Tape stuff and talk, yeah.
Tape stuff, yeah. No.
You don't embrace the Zoom callback that we've all had to be dealing with throughout the whole pandemic. You should have to deal with it too, right? That's
no,
cool.
it's never. I mean, it was all like a tape audition. You know, like when you brought in a new talent, it was just one agent with them in the room, physically just in the camera while they did a monologue anyway. So we would never. It was never our process to be like, okay, great, we like you, come back and do more. You know, typically from the tape or the audition or the materials people provide us, we can, you know, or we ask for more material. Hey, will you do the script? Can you do a scene? But yeah, we've never done a Zoom callback. We do Zoom like hangout where we meet. Yeah.
Right. That's good.
Yeah, we do Zoom vibe check, but like I like Dana said, we've never been the type to like if we were gonna have somebody come in and audition for representation, our process is not to like all sit in a room with notepads and look at you like, you know what I mean? Like that's just not who we are. You know, we try to make it a very comfortable thing, and we review tapes anyway, like as a team pre-pandemic. So,
Gotcha.
So yeah, no, we're not doing that.
So I'm jumping around topics a little bit here, but the casting networks just came out with a big new overhaul. Is there anything that we need to know from you about that?
We're just as frustrated as you are. That's mine. I keep telling them, I'm like, it's different for us too. We're all in the same boat of it's glitchy every day.
It's a learning curve, yeah.
Yeah, every day Casting Network also sends agents like, we're working on it. We heard from your feedback. I know it's an hour wait to get on customer service for talent. Like,
what's one of the biggest problems that you've seen talent having with that you could guide us?
I think people weren't, you know, we tried to send out reminders to talent before the overhaul. We've known for almost over a year, actually.
Wow.
Casting Networks had come to Chicago and like did like agents. Hey, in a couple years, we're going to do the thing. I think people are still like, what's going on? The biggest, yeah. My internet.
Yes, Dana's internet, but Jenny can translate because she talks.
I mean, it's all I know,
digitalese.
really.
No, okay. There you are, Dana.
I don't know that much about it, but.
I think it will be beneficial in the long run. You know, what they did is they find a bunch of sites. So I think in the long run, I think the biggest issue is that people logging into it. Now, when they log in, it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
So I think it was like I think right now everyone just log in, just get the lay of the land, and know that some people have like multiple accounts because they have multiple agents. So now they have to merge all the accounts.
And just click all of those locations to be like, where am I? Let me see if I hit a dead end or do I find anything? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So the big one is you're just activating your accounts, I think, and merging. Like even today, someone was like, isn't this my account? And I'm like, that's not the account I see.
But I guess I have a question about it. Do they have like, there's like an age range, like sort of thing? Are the actors putting in the age range now?
Yeah, right,
like
when you log in, they're like,
thing?
what's your age range?
Because I mean, we always put that in for the actors, and now I just don't know if that's like, you know.
I think
both. Every actor is just entering 18 to 24 is what every actor is putting down for themselves.
Or people put 18 to 100, and I'm like, what's going on?
I can do makeup. Yes.
We have the power to basically edit almost 99% of a profile. I think still, like I've been playing around with it, but I think you have to fill everything out or your profile doesn't show up.
I don't think you can hit the button, yeah.
Like I can't select people for a submission if they don't have an age range.
Mm-hmm.
A thing pops up and says, this actor does not have an age range. You're like, oh, but I searched them 20 to 35, so somehow we know how old they are. So it's
Yes, and it's Lydia also says we have to enter our birth date as well, but it says it's not going to show you on the thing. You're like,
It
why
doesn't
do you
show.
need-
It
I
doesn't
know.
show
It's gonna be like,
casting.
why do they need this? No,
It doesn't casting. It's mostly for minors and alcohol. So like we do searches, if you're
Minors and
under 20
alcohol.
Yeah, minors and alcohol. Oh,
Yeah.
alcohol
You know.
products commercials where you have to be over lottery, where you have to be over 21 or you
Yep.
have to be over 25. So, casting never sees your birthday, so don't worry. I know people get nervous.
Oh, that's an interesting. Lydia had another question. Actually, I want to say that one for a second because I want to wrap up with the casting software, and this is a little bit different. Jenny, I think we talked about this maybe this week, but I run a practice group as part of the green room, and we've had a few conversations with actors, trying to just strategize what they're doing with their materials and everything. And the question has come up a few times. What about how many clips should I be putting on my profiles? Should I be doing a big subscription on Casting Network? Should I be just paying for clips on Actors Access? Should I just throw all the money in the world at this, or where do things balance out about the most? And I think
I know that for us, in the TV film world, we utilize Actors Access, Breakdown Express almost solely versus Casting Networks. And if you have clips,
but I just want to be clear for television
For TV
film products, not
yeah.
for commercial products.
correct.
Projects.
Yeah, for television film products or projects. And if you have them attached to your account, I submit them every time I send. So, we just can click a little box and they go with the audition.
Do you send all of them, or do you pick and choose?
I think it depends on the project. Sometimes all of them, sometimes not. Just and then
Sometimes
also
none of
what, and sometimes none. Yeah.
And I think we've all heard the rumor or truths that if you have video connected to your Actors Access, or if you have what do they call it, a slate shot connected to it, that it pops up at the top of the list on the casting side of things, so that it can help out. My perspective from that, and I was in casting for years and years and years ago, and we did use Actors Access, Breakdown Express on the other side of things, is what it's called. And as the casting director, I'm imagining this is still the case, you can sort things however you want. So that might be the default in the system if the casting director doesn't do anything, but we would almost always alphabetically sort it in case there was a duplicate, or we would sort it based upon first arrival. So we would basically blow past all of if you're paying Actors Access more money, you're going to get to the top of the list. But I do still think that there's a lot of value in having clips and having stuff to be seen, especially if casting doesn't know who you are, because words speak 1,000 more times than a picture, I suppose, is the phrase. Jim,
But I think Casting Networks is a different story. I'm not sure that one needs to have pictures. Video.
I would wait just because of how new everything is. I think I would wait to pay for a premium. I never really recommend to pay for the premium account on Casting Networks anyway, because all you're paying for is to be able to submit on the jobs that they don't send to agents.
Right.
Basically, it's the jobs that they're like, we don't want to talk to your agent. We just want to submit, let you submit. And you're like, okay, I don't
your
want to
agent's going to get you paid well, and we don't want to do that. We
don't
want
wanna-
to take
yeah,
advantage
we
of
want
you to go to Tennessee on your dime and shoot this commercial in a barn and make $50. That's typically what you're paying for. And
Right.
you can put a lot more pictures. Again, it's not a site that now I think you get 2 free ones, and I think you can switch them out. I think you can upload stuff for free, like one video on Casting Network.
I think you get one video, yeah.
Which you didn't get before, which is
Right.
actually quite nice. But I would wait. I think this got another month of corpse.
Right. And to the point, I don't know how much a commercial, somebody who's casting a commercial is going to go and look at your TV or film clips, or oh, you'd be great in this Coca-Cola commercial because you were so awesome in that Swiffer commercial. It's going to come down to the audition. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually just taught a class at the university, and there was a casting director that works at Barton Shanae Casting on there with me, and she was talking about slate shots, and she was like, please tell me why you think I have time when I'm watching 300 self-tape to watch your slate shot in which you just say your name and I learn nothing about you, and you're paying casting actors access to do that. She's like, we don't have the time. Like, I'll learn more about you via your audition than watching all of these other clips. Now, to have clips can be helpful. Like, I'm not going to say that it's not. Like, you never know, and everybody has a different process. But I do think with the volume that every casting director, especially on the on-camera side, whether it's commercial or on film TV, has to handle, they're going to watch your audition first, you know what I mean, or look at your resume first. They're not going to take time out of their day to watch your clips or watch your slate. So before you spend money on it, just remember that you can have all of those things in your back pocket and send them as follow-up when they're necessary. You know what I mean? You don't have to pay casting networks and actors access to hold them for you, essentially. You know?
Or if I'm in the mindset of like, I do want to watch just a little bit of moving picture, I'm going to click and see your acting as opposed to you like talking about your dog or something like that, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think actors should be fine with, Michelle and I were just having a conversation the other day about, putting a clip up there and, well, what if they don't watch the whole thing? And like, I think it's great to have the expectation that they're not going to watch the whole thing.
Yeah, they won't.
We might just watch you for 5 to 7 seconds or 10 seconds. And that can oftentimes, give us the moving picture and the life that we need to see. So, yeah, absolutely. What was the other one that I skipped through? Sorry, I've got all these questions over here. When actors submit their video that's requested for an audition on casting networks, does an agent approve it? Like, I think this is specifically through casting networks. Does the agent approve it, or does it just go right straight to casting?
It goes
Or
straight to casting.
And EcoCast the same thing?
Does he go?
You can adjust the settings on EcoCast depending, but generally it goes right to casting.
Yeah, and casting
we're not gatekeeping over here,
And I've been reminding people, it's like whatever message you're typing in that casting networks thing too. Like some people are like, they write stuff, and I'm like, just casting can see that. I see it they see it. So if you're writing like, I hate this spot, or nobody's written that, but like, God forbid somebody does. So like, this is so dumb. Blah blah. I was like, they can see it. Like, don't just say thanks, or like, thanks for the audit. But yeah, it goes direct to them.
And I've heard some casting directors actually say they kind of like to see a little note in there, or for whatever it's worth. I don't think it's gonna make you a career.
They miss people. They miss actors. I'm sure it's like a way for them to be like,
Yeah, absolutely. What's going on in town right now? Where are things at? How has things been going since say January? Is it on the uptick? Is it?
I'm sorry, we couldn't hear a word you said because it literally sounded like a tsunami blew across.
Really?
Oh, it was his papers.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, there it is.
There's papers. Ah,
I was static. Like, is it me? I was like,
static electricity.
I was like,
that's what I said too. I was like, what am I doing?
That was Jim's fault. Where are things at right now? Is work on an uptick? Has it been kind of going steadily up since January? Has TV? I mean, it feels to me that TV's been pretty busy since
it's busy.
January.
Yeah, it's very busy. There's tons of new TV series shooting in town. Tons. I mean, it's just there's 15 shows or something like that.
And they all have to do with time travel somehow.
Some of them
really
strangely,
yes.
right?
Yes.
It's like you have to go through dimensions, like, because nobody wants to be in this time anymore. So every show is about time travel. How about commercials?
Commercials, I feel like it's waves. Like we had like a big pop, and it was like everybody was shooting here in the same month, and then I think our weather it's always volatile. With people are like, oh, it's 100 degrees. Yeah, we're gonna wait for like 2 weeks to even talk about casting this. And that's always kind of been Chicago. I feel like we're always weather dependent, but I think it's definitely getting busier. That's the nice thing. It's like, even when it's like slowish this week, it's still more than what we had a year ago.
Yeah. And theater wise, I'm working on things for, I many, like several projects. It's like, it feels like we're back to normal. We're just not going into the room, honestly.
Got it. Here's another question I've got from Anonymous. The turnaround time during COVID for voiceover auditions and on camera has gotten, oh, I have another question on top of this. Turnaround time has gotten really short more and more often. Do you see that settling down? And if not, what can we, you, or any of us do to make that process easier for everyone? Have
I
you
mean,
seen turnaround times getting shorter and shorter?
Yeah. I mean, especially commercially, I feel like it's like, okay, I need a tape in 3 hours. So I think it'll, I don't know. Sometimes I just think everything's getting faster. We want things faster. I mean, that's just how we are as like a society, instant gratification. But I think once things are in person, they have to, like, you have to give it notice. Like it will slow it down. But, I think it was fast before. I mean, people had auditions at 9 a.m. and it was 8 o'clock at night, so is it slower? Is it faster? I think it's all pretty relatively.
Relative.
Yeah.
And it'll be curious to see what, and especially on lead times too, which is, I suppose, a slightly different topic, especially in the TV and film world. But I did hear Claire said, definitely she felt the crunch more because they had to get the role cast so that they had enough time for the COVID testing, so that they had enough time for the wardrobe fitting and everything. So that just like crammed everything by 3 days. And it doesn't mean that the writers can necessarily write any faster or everything can get approved any faster. So it does kind of put a crunch on that. And it'll be interesting to see, if that goes away when things do lift up. I had a question on that. So in the voiceover world, it's been for a long while now. Let's say we get an audition. What is it? 1:42. Let's say I get an audition right now and it says this is due by 10 a.m. tomorrow, which is not, too atypical, or 9 a.m. tomorrow. Kind of my rule of thumb, and I think any voiceover's rule of thumb in today's market is if it's 1:42 right now, I've got to get that thing in before 3 o'clock, or at least before like 3:42. Otherwise, I'm just passing up a lot of opportunity because I'd get it in by 9 a.m. tomorrow morning or 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. They're sending those in as they get them in. I think the voiceover department probably, I know you guys work till like 11 p.m., but voiceover, I think they're on the job until about 1 a.m. every day. Your work has gotten ridiculous. I feel so bad for how long your hours are. But so my question is, that's kind of the norm in voiceover. You don't wait. You can't wait. In commercial, say I've got something that's due tomorrow at 3 and I'm sending them to you and then you're sending them on to casting. Do you have any sense, do those go out in batches or are they rolling out as they come in? So does the same principle apply? Should we get things in earlier rather than later, or do we have more flexibility in the on-camera world in terms of getting closer to the deadline?
Well, I would say it's always better to get stuff in. So now with casting networks, we actually aren't, I mean, maybe there's one office we send stuff to for commercials, but like O'Connor has their Dropbox. And I will say, do not wait till the last second, like, because they review them and they'll get feedback and they'll call the actor direct and be like, this is what you need to do. So it's all good. There's nothing worse than like 10 minutes to 10 and at 10 and someone says I can't, what am I doing? I'm like, what?
Right.
When I collect tapes for commercial, like if I'm working direct with a client, and because we still have tons of those, typically I do batches. I'll do like, if I have by 3 and it's due at, I'll send them in batches early. Or typically it kind of depends on the role and the client, but early is always better. Always get your stuff in early. I think, they watch them, you can get it retaped. It's, they have a client, they probably have, an extra hour, or if you need an extension, ask for it right away. Big thing. If your day is full, it's just better because there is usually like a little bit of wiggle room. Like I would say there's always like probably a little bit of buffer, or at least we know there's not. Like this is it, it's good. But yeah, I would say.
Yeah, and I think there's also just like a human psyche. There's just a natural human thing that we do in our psyches. When something comes in early, it sort of sets a baseline. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And if you come later, that means that you are being compared to everything that has already been seen. So if you made an interesting choice early on, you're now the benchmark. And then everybody else is compared to you until somebody else overcomes it. And sure, sometimes somebody might, but it's like, but you know, because the way that, I mean, the volume that our poor casting directors have to contend with, like, I would never want to manage their email inboxes, but it's just like, you know, it's like so much coming in, and they do watch everything as they come in because they don't have time. Like, if everybody waited until the deadline to submit their things, not everybody's going to get reviewed. You know what I mean? It's just, it's way too much volume to watch in a set amount of time. So they do watch them as they come in. And I think that the earlier that you get it in, the earlier you can help set the baseline for everybody else. I think that makes you more competitive in this market, this digitally focused market. I really do. I mean, it always has for voiceover. And now that everything is self-tape, I think that those voiceover principles are starting to trickle over to what we do.
Yeah. And was speaking as well from my casting experience, even way back when, there were some jobs that as casting we would send it all off at once. And I also worked way back. We did work digitally, but I also worked way back when it was like VHS tapes, like in FedEx boxes. But then we would also have jobs where we would send everything as it came in. You know, so it really job specific, but that is a good point that the casting has to review through everything as well before everything goes out. Just speaking as an actor, I kind of have to balance the mindset a little bit more in the on-camera realm. So I'll give myself a little bit more time to make sure that I'm really in the right space and have the ability to be prepared, because it takes obviously more preparation to deal with an on-camera thing than it does with a voiceover thing.
And by no means are we saying like rush.
Yeah.
Because a rush.
No, because then. Yeah, get it in first and bad, great.
Yeah,
then yours is just bad. Yeah, get it in first and okay, it's still okay. I think what Jim's saying is if whatever you can do to find that good stuff earlier rather than later. So David O'Connor, I'll kill me for this question. So when hi David, when they send out a breakdown, and I totally understand why they do it, and it makes sense, and their job would be a pain in the ass if they didn't do it this way. But they'll send out an audition to the actor, and then they'll have the actor fill out the info sheet in order to get access to the sides. So then you're, as the actor, is thinking, and I know the answer is just like take a picture every month and have it ready to go. But they ask you to take digital shots of yourself. And most actors are thinking, well, I'd like to take a digital shot of myself in the setup of what I'm going to wear for this audition. But I haven't read the script yet. And I haven't made any choices yet. And I don't know what I'm going to do. And I haven't taken a shower in a day and a half. So now you're going to make me take a shower to get the script and see what the heck it is that I'm auditioning for. Do you guys get to see the scripts beforehand? And is there any way to give guidance to actors on, like, I also like to know, like, how much time am I going to take to do this audition? What is your experience on that side of things? I suppose that maybe is Dana.
I was like, well, yes, that is the question that everyone always asks. We are starting to ask for it, just because also we have people who are like, I'm at work, like I'm happy to do it, or, you know, it is easy. We can get it. It's not like, you know, a golden ticket that none of us are allowed to get. So just ask your agent. But I do think the image really is so that they know that you look like your headshot. I don't know what the images are used for. I don't think they're going to the client. So I don't think you need to worry about the setup of it, as long as it's just that you look clean. You're showered.
Well, that's not been the case in the pandemic. It's like beard out to here, hair out to there, hair out to here, hair out to there.
People are dyeing their hair, changing their look. So I think the biggest issue is that, you know, people's headshots were just not looking like them. So it was them to get a baseline. And that I have suggested, I'm like, take a day and take pictures in like 30 different shirts and just have them ready.
Just have them ready to go. Yeah.
And I wouldn't worry about if you need to look like a doctor in the spot or if you need to look like a farmer. Because the image is really just to make sure that you're not, you know, you didn't shave your head or dyed your hair, or, you know, got a tattoo on your face. So I wouldn't. But yes, the selfies. I understand everybody's like, why?
I just had to ask it, and I totally understand why they do it, because it would be like if you think it through, it would be a logistical nightmare for them to collect digital shots either during people's self tapes and then connect those to the. I mean, that would be a real awful
Yeah.
pain in the neck on the casting side of thing to have to do that. So I completely understand why they would put that in a form and collect it efficiently and grab it as they do. It just is that mindset. I've just heard from many an actor be like, I have to take a picture before I know what I need to take a picture for. Yeah,
I know. That's why I'm like, I don't think you should, worry about if you're in a suit coat or a doctor's jacket. It's literally just,
It's like your headshot. Nobody has really, really specific headshots. They just have nice pictures of themselves. So just like Dana said, just take a couple and save them.
Kaz has a question, and thanks you for being here. Hi, Kaz. Good to see you out there. What are your thoughts on reels, on actual reels? He's heard that unless you have footage from professional TV and film, it's not worth making one from scratch or going to pay to get one made. Is there any form of a reel that would be useful to have for actors who haven't booked notable appearances yet?
Yes, that's what was said is true. Like, a reel should have competitive national network credits on it. And if you don't have national network credits, no one is expecting you to have a completed reel. You know what I mean? It's not really something, I think, that generally I have found that reels are the most useful when someone is up for something really big and has already auditioned, and then they ask for a reel for additional footage. That's the only time that I think it's, and then even then, when you're like, they don't have a reel, they're like, oh, just send us some self-tapes of them. You know what I mean? Like, just having that footage. So is it something that you should aspire to have after you've booked a bunch of credits? Yeah, absolutely. And you should definitely keep your clips together. But like, is it a super necessary tool, especially when you're just trying to break into it? I really don't think so. And
Agreed.
in fact, I think that if you go out and get one made like that and source clips from some random stuff and it's not competitive, it will actually work against you. It's far more likely that it would work against you than for you.
I oftentimes have to, heartfeltly say, you need to not use your independent film reel that's 4 minutes long, because it is absolutely working against you. I would rather see you tape yourself in front of the blank gray background doing some really freaking great work, giving me access to you as a human being.
100%. Yeah.
And
100%.
let me just watch your acting, for sure, for sure. So I think that's the first and foremost way to, especially if you're trying to get attentions of talent agents or casting people who don't know your work at all beforehand, don't show them the independent film path of stuff unless it is truly looks like it's network TV quality. And there are a few that are out there that have shot some incredible stuff that you wouldn't know that it wasn't from a higher budget film, but they're few and far between. But yeah, I think a lot of times actors fall down that pathway of quantity over quality, unfortunately. I had a conversation with somebody this past week of a lot of the reels that are out there do the service of saying, look, I've done stuff. And I said, well, that's what your resume does. That's what ink on a page is for. You want your reel to give us access to you as a human. Yeah, for sure. Self-tape winning question. I don't know what that is. I've got a helper here. It's so hard to do these things and fiddle through all these questions. It's so tough. Like I haven't paid attention to a word that you said the whole time because I like to sit here and like look at all these questions.
There's a lot of self-tape questions. I think you could probably answer without them.
Yeah, we can do that. Is there anything that you like? So they often ask that. What are agents expecting on a self-tape? Like, do you like to see really good quality in a self-tape? Are you like, you don't care at all? Obviously, it comes down to the acting. So if the acting is the same in one tape or another, what are you looking for in terms of like, what's the bare minimum that people need to hit on a self-tape? And what is something that you like to see as far as quality of a self-tape?
I always like to say there's 3 like major guideposts to a self-tape. The first one is that you must be seen, you must be heard, you must have a reader, and you must have a steady frame. That's number 1 guidepost. That's like the base, right? Like we need to be able to clearly see you. Like we've seen people get called back for like really big things with surprisingly lousy quality, so you never know what people are going to respond to. That's not to say that you should always strive for the highest quality video possible. That's under 500 megabytes.
It's under $500.
It's under 500 megabytes. You know, because actually we have to get these. You know, we all have to email this information and we transfer this an EcoCast. So like the bigger the files get, the actual like if you send me a 2 terabyte level audition that's like 4K, like that is not gonna. You know what I mean? It's tough for us to get it to where it needs to go quickly. So that's the basis. And then the second one is the privilege and the trap of a self-tape is that there is no flexibility, right? There is no flexibility to like goof up or mess up.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you've got to be super prepared. You've got to be off book, you know, because if we're just going through, if I'm a casting director and I'm just watching 1,000 self-tapes for the same role, and then I get to this one person and there's shit lighting, and then I'm just like, to the next. And then if there's one person, they got a paper up in front of their face, I'm like, to the next. I ain't got time. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so it's your audition has to be good. You have to be prepared. You have to be off book. You have to be ready. I think those are the things that we mostly expect from anybody, just like we would any audition, even if you were in the room. And then, you know, but what I also like to say is the thing that I really think that sets a lot of self-tapes apart, and this is a very controversial statement, and I'm not saying like go out and do crazy things, but is to like pepper a little bit of creativity. You know, even when you're auditioning for somebody on Chicago Med, if you're holding like a clipboard, all of a sudden you seem a lot more like a doctor to me for some reason. You know what I mean? Don't lean on the prop, but just like those little, there's little touches that you can do that can help you cut through the other 3,000 that casting director has to go.
Very dangerous statement, but very true. I've seen the relationship of props in self-tapes for television and film, which used to be no way.
No. Yep.
Has changed a lot with self-tapes because it's different. And I mean, and plus they're usually below the frame. I mean, but if I can open up a clipboard and hear the snap and just be there with it and have that be a part of what I'm doing. I've seen my mentality around props change entirely. Now, again, I think what Jim said and what I would say too to all the actors out there, don't think that, oh, I should start incorporating props in my auditions for the sake of that benefit. Not at all. It's got to blend into the story, and you've got to focus on the story. You've got to focus on the story.
It should be
so Kevin asked really quickly, and for everybody out there with phones that are taping on phones, turn it off 4K. You can go into your general settings or whatever you're on and get it off 4K. Some phones are on 4K by default. But do you have any sort of minimal quality, or do you just care about file size? 720, in my opinion, is totally fine.
Oh, yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. I don't think you're going to get booked because you're in 1080. I'd much rather just put in 720. And everybody looks better in 720 instead of 720. And then one person had one more question. I know we're kind of running really long here. Can you talk about the current projects that are shooting in Chicago? And I'm assuming that probably means in the television realm.
Sure.
But can you just give us a quick rundown in terms of what's going on out there right now? What's actually still actively casting and they're not shooting, but they've fully cast the whole thing?
We've got The Shy is wrapping in about, I would say, a week maybe, or maybe this week. I'm not really sure. But they've been shooting for the past 6 months. We have a new show called 4400 that's going to start shooting next week. We have a show called Power Book that's shooting, I think, for another month or so. We have a show called Ripple Effects that just started last week. We've got another show called Paper Girls that's basically, I think, starting in the next week or two. We have a show on HBO called Somebody Somewhere that's shooting out in the burbs. Work in Progress just wrapped, and then Fire, PD, and Med are all on hiatus until like right after the 4th of July.
Right.
Am I missing some? I feel like
61st
Street. Yep, 61st Street.
That's going to go through November. And then The Bear, too.
The Bear, yep. The Bear is coming, yep.
And is The Big Leap coming back?
Yep, that's going to be coming in July. Yep. There's a lot. Lots of shows.
It's been great, yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
Cool. Is there anything else you want us all to know coming out of this, now that it's June 11th and the masks are off, or any thoughts that you'd like actors to leave with?
I hear something, because one of the things that I think that our actors have struggled with the most throughout this pandemic is the sense that we are acting in a vacuum. that you're now, all of your self-tapes are just going out. You're not getting any sort of energy back from a casting director, from the other actors in the waiting room. The sense of community is sort of lost, right? And it sort of feels like all of the pressure is on you to be perfect, right? You have to make yourself perfect. I have to make myself perfect. And then you really work to do it. And then you throw it out there and then you hear zip, right? And it just feels like everything goes into the vacuum. And you know that there's all this stuff happening like we're talking about, but it goes into the vacuum, you get a lot, maybe you have a lot of auditions, maybe you don't get any, but they're still going. And then it's just like, what's happening? I'm floating in space. I feel very isolated. Just remember that you are 170% not alone in that. This has been very difficult on everyone. And the idea of how this pandemic has presented challenges in connecting people to doing human things has been really, really, really hard. And if you're feeling that way, call your friends, reach out, communicate, call your agent. Just talking about it helps you to remember that you are not alone in this. And you're not acting in a vacuum. Your work is being seen. It is being looked at. It is being well regarded. It's just, because of the nature of what this is presented to us, it's made it difficult, right? Because you don't, just listening to Mickey Pascal, even if you don't get a callback, say in the room to you, good job. You know what I mean? We're not getting that anymore, and that's hard. So just remember that you're not alone. Call your friends, reach out, do things over Zoom. If you're vaccinated, get together with people, read things. You know what I mean? Just remember that you're not alone in this. This has been really fucking weird and really freaking hard. And try to cut yourself some grace. Allow yourself to know that you don't have to be super, super, super fucking perfect all the time. And what you're doing is more than enough. You are more than enough. That's what I would say.
Bravo, Jim. Very good.
Amen.
We were just saying before this started, Jim needs to have a YouTube channel because people need to hear what you are saying. That, yes, absolutely. You make
That's
me tear
the
up.
truth. It is 100% the truth.
Absolutely the truth.
Yeah, we miss you guys too. That's what I'm.
Well,
And also, I was
all
gonna
you
say,
guys.
don't compare yourself. We're all on social media and watching our
Oh my
friends
gosh.
and actor friends too. You're like, what? I think don't. I'm like, take a break from social media. Everybody take a break. We don't. Don't worry if you're not working.
Yeah.
We're all. This is a slow burn back into the world that we knew.
Awesome. Well, you guys are the best. Thanks for doing
Thanks,
this.
Sean.
I'm sure there's a ton more questions out there that we didn't get to answer. We will do more of these in the future, and we'll get to some of these questions. And I do have a list of questions. I can probably put some answers out there for people who have asked stuff that we did not get to. But I want to thank you all for being here.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank everybody out there for watching. This has been really cool to see you guys. And be safe. Take care of each other. Call each other up. Awesome.
All right.
Drink water.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
We will see you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.